pioneering African Americans, Black Hebrew movement, Black Lives Matter, Democrats. I want you to get this. I want you to understand this. Okay? Yes, it is not commonplace anymore for a man such as myself who appears to be white, but I'm actually a Heinz 57. But okay, that aside, for all intents and purposes, I'm a white guy. And all white guys are apparently white supremacists and KKK and discriminatory and prejudiced. However, if you open your eyes and look around you to what's happening to you and your children, you're going to see that I am speaking to you the truth, and the truth is supposed to set you free. Now, what you've got to understand is that these African Americans, many of them, I want to make it clear, the reason why Democrats do not want there to be a law that says you have to have a voter's ID before you can vote is because many of these quote-unquote African Americans are not Americans at all. Many of these Mexican Americans are not Americans at all. They're not even residential aliens. All right? And these people, they don't have the right to vote. They don't. They just float over here and they get lost. And as black people, they get jobs like everybody else. And nobody knows the better. They're not Americans. They are Africans. And they are here to make more of a mess out of the morals of your children. Now, I want to repeat that there has been a publication that came out in 1996 and it resurfaced in 2004. It is called the Black Dawn. It is the mission statement and declaration of war from African Americans all over the world. It's not just African Americans here. African Americans, Africans, black people in general. A declaration of war on white people in the United States. And a pledge to eliminate or eradicate white people altogether from the United States and turn it entirely black through ethnic and racial cleansing. I need you to get this. If you take a look, if you go into the deep underground, they call it the Underground Railroad, you're going to find this publication, Black Dawn. If you go into the prisons, and you go into black cells, okay, where they get newspaper publications, you're going to see this newspaper, Black Dawn. It is a declaration of war of black people on white people in the United States of America. And this has been spurned on by the religious movement, Black Hebrew movement, which believes that the United States, well, it depends on what school of thought you're from over there. Either you are a spiritual Israel, which is being, the United States is either a spiritual Israel, which has been deemed as full of quote-unquote occupiers, and that this land belongs to them, and so they're going to assume ownership and begin slaying white people or ethnically and racially cleansing them, denying them jobs when they own businesses, and sending them out to the streets, and getting them hooked on drugs, and so on and so forth. Or they're a spiritual Egypt, and if you're a spiritual Egypt, then you sponsored the slavery of the Jews, and they believe that they are the true Jews that belong in Israel. But at the same time, because of slavery that took place in the United States, it depends on which class of believer that you are at Black Hebrew movement. If you're further north, you're probably going to have the, oh, Israel is our true home and we are the true Jews. If you go further south, it's probably going to be, in Africa. If you go further south, it's probably going to be the United States is the spiritual Egypt. And God has given them permission to overcome the United States, which I strongly believe he has not. Now, how are they doing this? Okay, this is probably the last phase unless you stop it. White folks, I'm trying to tell you, you've got to stop this. The black people, it's not all black people. The black people that are doing this are residents of their nation states in Africa. They are children of Canaan, and they were cursed by God because of what Canaan did to Noah. All right? They're angry about this curse. There's nothing they can do about it, and God has not lifted it. These particular people are the people that were gathered by their own families and sold into slavery all over the world, not just the United States. And I saw a statistic the other day that only about 3 to 4% of the world's enslaved were in the United States. All right, and so this is their chief complaint. We are retaliating against you for what you have done to us between 1611, i.e. the 1611 Project, and 1875, which was where our, quote, liberation to the, through the proclamation of liberation of the slaves. Okay? All right. So they're messing with your kids' morals. Now, when you see on TV an adult black man going up to a white child and ripping off a necklace from her neck, a white 5-year-old child. I can find it if you want it. Okay, that is obvious. They are attacking the young and the elderly, breaking into their homes, taking their pharmaceuticals, killing them, burning them down. Okay? Waco, Texas. All right? And then they're coming in saying, okay, and then the white folks, the government is saying, what can we do to get you to stop this? Well, give us more money, which is what it's about, more money, so that they can buy more drugs and continue to get stoned and continue to do the things that they're doing to us, white folks. And as I go down the street driving in my car every day, I see older black teenagers confronting a younger white teenage girl and leading her into a situation where she is being sexually violated. And by the way, it's a secret. You know how I know this? Because I was a victim of it when I was 6 or 7. An older teenage girl, black girl, Jackie, all right, was doing the same thing to us. And it was me and another white girl, and had us in a tent together, and they were encouraging us to lose our innocence, basically. I never did. I I didn't know what was going on. I didn't do anything. I didn't want to touch her. We were just in this tent and okay, so I don't know. I just thought it was wrong and I wasn't going to touch her, you know. And so I didn't know what was happening. I was innocent, at that point. All right. So that's how I know what's happening, because I've been through it. All right. And if you take a look at my previous video, about the crucible, it's important that you read the crucible, because it features a black woman involved in voodoo witchcraft, teaching white girls voodoo and witchcraft and coaching them on how to accuse somebody of being a witch when it was against the law, which led to the death of 4 innocent women. Why is that significant? Because many of our African American quote-unquote friends here are practicing voodoo witchcraft. And many of them are the babysitters for your white children. Do you understand? Now, I am putting this out here on video because you need to see what's happening. You need to understand what's happening, because if you don't know the truth, then you don't have the means to fight what's going on. I don't have any power. I can just tell you what's going on, and you could do what you want with it. Heck, you might just show up at my door and kill me. Yeah, at this point, I really don't care. Because, you have not shown that you cared about your nation, your city, your country. Doesn't matter. You go into the army. You don't even care about what you do in the army, for God's sake. There's reports of guys going over to the desert and killing their own members, blaming an enemy, and burying them in the sand. For God's sake, you guys don't care about anything. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you came busting down my door and you killed me. So, anyway, you've got to understand, you white folks, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever your situation is, if you're a single white woman with children, you need to find a husband that loves you, who will protect you and care for you, and will protect your children from their morals being spoiled. And dare I say, in this society, while I'm trying to tell you what only one of the enemies are, I've already given you some indications of what the enemies would be. Mexicans are raising a socioeconomic war on Americans on the West Coast and in Texas. African Americans, they are waging a socioeconomic war in the South. Russians are waging a socioeconomic war in the northeastern portion. And dare I say, Nazi Germany is taking over the northern Midwest. On the east side of the Mississippi. You guys, you've got to understand that Mr. Yuri Bezmenov's prediction of what would happen in the United States is happening, and we are, I'm afraid, in the last stage, unless you start seeing the enemy for what it is and start protecting your children from this false indoctrination, from having them believe from their teachers that the public school system knows better than the parents, and that homosexuality is okay, and it's okay for a boy to be a a girl and a girl to be a boy, and allowing transgendered men to come in dressed as women to read stories to your kids. Gee, I wonder, why would they do that? Because they want to turn your kids. Remember, these people, homosexuals and blacks primarily, they want to mess with your kids' morals. They want to racially and ethnically cleanse you so that all that's left is communist doctrine or black people. That's it. All right? You've got to protect your children if you don't want them indoctrinated. You pull them out of school, get married, make sure the man is working, make sure those kids are home and getting homeschooled, and make sure you have some kind of protection. And yes, the Second Amendment is for times like these. And yes, when you've got a 13 or 14-year-old teenage girl there at home and you've got a black male hanging out at the house on a regular basis, he is a threat to your daughter. You make sure that he understands by any means necessary that he is not to be on your property. Period. That's off the cuff. Thank you.